Aflin vi washa Jeev Galer, Happy New Year. This is our first Fireside Chat of 2026, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And Eimear Burke here, and this is 192 Fireside Chat. So, as is customary, I will start with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon ar fud na crinne, Gamara Shiakon in our Jaili agus in our Jirha. Ganairi Lin, Len Arcuj Garmaka, Gamwich Buichas Jeev, Jeh Chivdika, a spirit Chivdika. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see, through our fear of each other, a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done along the holy mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So let me see where you all are today. Any comments? Hello. From Denmark. Lovely. New Mexico. South Coast UK. Lovely. New York. Wetzlar. Italy. Hi, Carla. Germany. That's Hanover in Germany. Wonderful. Wonderful. So anyway, you're all very, very welcome. Berlin. Leslie and Kevin in Sligo. Hope you're both doing well. North Carolina. Wonderful. So to Warwickshire. Brilliant. So today we go to, Chile. My goodness. Cortez, is that how you pronounce it? Colorado. Lovely. So we are going to the US today. Let me introduce my guest this evening, or today, wherever you are, is Liz Hills. Liz Hills, and Liz, you're in Wyoming. So
yes,
you for a few moments.
Yes. So I'm in eastern, for northern Arapaho, Cheyenne, and eastern Shoshone territory in southern Wyoming.
Brilliant, brilliant. So tell us about, because I've never been to Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
David says from a chilly Florida for a brief visit. So what's the weather like where you are?
Oh, gosh. So it would normally be the time of the January thaw. But we actually never really had much of a hard freeze. It was some in the beginning of December, and then there was a sort of a nonstop windstorm for many, many weeks that raised the temperature and thawed the ground. And it's just all of that strangeness that we're all experiencing. And this is somehow connected with like the flooding in the Pacific Northwest, and like Montana has had lower than normal temperatures. And this is all the same connection, all the same weirdness we're all experiencing all around.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's Irish weather.
Yeah. Well, there was a nearby town who does they do an annual ice fishing competition or contest or something. And they had to cancel it because no ice.
No ice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's where we're at.
Here in Ireland, it's ordinary Irish weather, damp and dull at the moment. I was in Italy last week, and I was in Tuscany, and we experienced -8, and there was snow up in the hills. I couldn't believe it. Psychologically, I was freezing because it's not meant to be cold in my head. I mean, that cold. And then I was in Rome for a day, which was, 3-4 degrees, wet, just like Ireland. So it's really interesting. And then I know Europe was hit with, I can't remember the name of the storm, where airports were blocked. So the Netherlands and France as well. So
yeah, I hope everybody's doing well, recovering from that.
Yeah, I hope so too, because I know often these things have power outages, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're so welcome, Liz, because you and I meet online, but we've never met in real, and it's just lovely to have you here on this chat. So tell us about Wyoming, your I suppose your landscape. What's it like? And as a
Um,
druid, what's
yeah. So Wyoming is wide open spaces and mountains. It's cold, dry, and windy. Um, and it's got a sagebrush and the antelope or the pronghorn antelope, and guys who wear cowboy hats without the irony. Um, and and I am bound to this land. I'm not originally from here. I wish I had been, but moved around lots growing up and early adulthood. And when I was a kid, we took a trip here. And as soon as I got here, I knew this is where I belonged. Never belonged anywhere else. And this same, not only living but traveling throughout the U.S. Little Mexico, little Canada, little Europe. But as a kid, I got here. I knew, and it's been that way ever since. My heart's been here ever since, and it was a matter of circuitously, I've been living here about 10, 15 years. It was a matter of finishing my education and figuring out, how to land here. Um, but yeah, it's wonderful. I'm just beginning the work, being a druid here.
okay? So this is kind of a druidic question. How do you know you belong? And how did you know way back what, or maybe you don't have words for it. I don't know, but I'm always curious. What's
Yeah.
the hook in a place that you weren't born, you weren't brought up, but something calls you?
I don't know. I can't describe it. It's
Mm.
just a knowing. Yeah. And I think I'm someone who I have claircognizance. So I've always gotten those moments of like where I know things. Um, but I mean that's specific, like knowing language. I have heard of other people who for them it's other landscapes and had that same experience. And for that phenomenon specifically, um, I have no words for it. I just knew, and like
Wow.
my parents knew too. Um, and it would not. It's just like, um, yeah, it was something that they immediately and they were not always recognizing the things that I could see, but that they definitely could. There was no way around it.
So they weren't surprised when you settled in Wyoming.
Correct. They knew it was a thing, and maybe they thought like, practically speaking, it'll be this or that. It'll be hard. Maybe if only Liz would want to do this or that. But they also knew there was no dissuading me. So we just sort of stand there, and watch my path. I guess is what they did.
Wow. Wow. So I suppose tell us a little bit about your background because I'm interested, and how did you come? I suppose I don't know how far back you want to go. Uh,
Oh,
I'm always interested in people's stories because
yeah.
the meandering and the pathways
Mhm.
to spiritual pathways, or even the family or the cultural pathways
Mhm.
to find Druidry and Obod. So I'm
Mhm.
just you start.
Well, I have definitely gone on the meandering pathway. Um, and let's start at the very beginning. A wise philosopher once said that was a very good place to start. Um, so, I was raised Catholic. My mom's family is Catholic,
Mhm.
but my dad's family is sort of non-specific Protestant. And my dad never practiced as an adult. Um, and at some point, I asked why doesn't dad go to church question? And my parents said, well, dad was an adult. Adults can decide these things for themselves.
Mhm.
Um, I just noticed your coffee cup. What does that say? Sorry, derailed.
And you can't say Cade and Scale. It means what's the story in Irish?
Okay, cool. I know a little Irish. I saw scale. I was like, that's story, and the rest of it I didn't
Well
know.
done.
Sorry. Okay. Um, yeah. So dad was an adult. Adults can decide these things for themselves. But I was a kid, and as long as I was a kid and living under their roof, I had to go to church. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then I spent my preteen, early teen years turning the church teachings over and over in my head, trying to figure out a way for them to make sense to me because there was just more and more and more. This long running list of things that just did not work. The hierarchy, the inherent gender bias, the self deprecation, the treatment of gay people, on and on, and the inconsistencies in the Bible, and not just that they're like inconsistencies, but the mumble, let's just not talk about it kind of reaction to that. And by the time I was 14, I was like, I don't believe enough for it would not be honest for me to continue calling myself a Catholic and maybe not even Christian. I don't know. And so one day before church, I asked my mom, like, is it okay if I stop taking communion? And she was like, well, if you're old enough to ask the question, then you're old enough to stop taking communion.
Wow.
So I stopped. And then I ended up going to boarding school right after that anyway. Um, it was not an expected thing. So, I was, at home when I was on vacation, I go with my mom, and at school, I wouldn't. Um, and I had to take a religion class in high school. This was a secular school, but a requirement to take religion in the interest of a well-rounded education.
Okay.
So I took world religions, and we covered the major Abrahamic traditions and Buddhism, the major denominations and sects within those. We did cover Hindu and Shinto, but not a word about any of the other indigenous traditions. Not a word about new religious movements, not a word about neo-paganism nor Druidry, or my path might have been very, very different. But what I came away with that class, other than being like really, really interesting, was that organized religion is just not for me. It seemed like invariably there was factionism and oppression that cropped up, and I just could not be a part of any of that. Hindu and Shinto were interesting to me, but I'm neither Indian nor Japanese, nor do I have any connection to those cultures, so it didn't seem like those are for me either. So I was very content to be what we now call spiritual but not religious, um, and just taking sort of humanist approach toward to
Mhm.
drawing wisdom from all sources. Um, very much I don't believe in labeling my beliefs, so I just sort of continued on like that. Not calling myself anything, nothing formal, but just sort of everywhere I could, just sort of listening and learning and exploring, and that was really, really great. Um, and then I spent much of my 20s sort of wandering the abyss, like after graduating from college. Um, Today, what we call a quarter life crisis. A lot of things going on there.
Mhm.
And part of it was that, like, I knew where I wanted to go. Didn't really know how to get there. I knew I wanted to go to med school, um, but I couldn't really figure that out. And I was sort of struggling. Um, and then I broke my arm, in a really, really bad break. So the situation was like, it was at dusk. I was crossing the street. This guy on a bike ran me over. Um, and it was a really bad, like all the way through the bone break. And I don't know if anyone's ever been in that experience of just sort of sitting there on the road, and you have that like weird proprioception where like your arm just doesn't, like, you try to move your arm, but it's just
Not doing
not
it.
working. And only reason that the cars don't run you over is because they see you and they stop and drive around or anything like that. Um, and so I spent, time recovering, healing from this break and such, feeling even more powerless than usual. And I spent a lot of time ruminating about all the problems of the world, um, you know, climate change, war, poverty, famine, health insurance, all the chronic diseases of civilization, immigration, just everything. And thinking about how nothing had changed. Like these problems have been there, like from as early as I can remember my
Mm.
entire life. Did all this discussion about what to do about them, how to solve them, and here they were, exactly the same. Nothing, no progress made at all. And It's the most profound moment of my life, what I call my green awakening, for lack of a better term. I had this epiphany one day that the only person I had any control over, only person's actions I had any control over was myself.
Mhm.
Um, so in the context of all this, intractable, polycrisis is the term I like to use now. But I could control what I did, and I could control the ways that I moved about that connected to all this polycrisis. So that led me to exploring, um, getting into the sustainability movement, green movement, all the things alternative, the food movement. Michael Pollan's work was
Mhm.
very influential and inspirational to me. Um, and starting with all the low hanging fruit, and to say,
Yeah.
like, I'm taking action, and there are all these ways individual action always builds into collective action and into change, and it's the only way it really happens. But even if none of that ever happens, even none of that ever is true, at least I would feel better.
Mhm.
And so that's what I decided to do. And this did all correspond, by the way, with the Great Recession. So as I was having, like, my own personal crisis, like the world was falling apart, um, which is great fun. And then it was a little after that that my sister-in-law, who's a recreational therapist, said, "Have you ever thought about going to osteopathic medical school?" She had worked with DOs, and she's like, "I think that might be, right up your alley." And
DOs.
so, and she turned out to be right. So I will explain osteopathic medicine. Um, and DO is a credential. It means
Ah.
Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
in the US, there are MDs and there are DOs. MD, Doctor of Medicine. We refer to them as allopathic medicine
Yeah.
to differentiate. And there's osteopathic medicine. And osteopathic medicine um, has a sort of guiding philosophy that is more holistic and patient centered. And there are four tenets that guide practice. Human beings are a unit of mind, body, and
Mhm.
spirit. Um, Human beings are capable of healing, of
Mhm.
self healing. Form and function are related on all levels, and rational treatment is derived by following those first three principles. Um, and so it's like this is the way. So
Mhm.
through that, I finally had that focus and that forward moving. So it's like that where you get stuck for a while and you just have to kind of wait, and then you get that forward momentum again. Um, and I was also say permaculture was another big thing that came out of this. Although I didn't discover that till I was actually in med school. So going through medical training, and I'll say that, relatively speaking, I think I had a really great experience. Um, from based on sort of every stories I've heard from everyone else that I know. Um, but that being said, it was definitely a soul crushing experience. Um,
Sorry, I'm getting confused now.
mhm.
So, did you train as an MD or DO?
A DO.
Okay, and that was tough. That training.
Well, I'm saying it's all the same. So these are two parallel professions
Okay.
that have full practice privileges in the United States. Um,
Ah, okay. It's different here.
so
All right.
so serving the same jobs, and the credentials are different. Um, and it's DOs are supposed to. It doesn't always work out in practice, but um, trained in this way, in a different way, but trained to serve the same job, um,
Oh, okay. Okay.
all within one system.
So
Um,
you'll have an MD working alongside a DO in a hospital.
exactly. Yes.
Ah, okay. That does not
Yeah.
happen here.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now I'm trying to
Yeah.
get.
Okay.
I'm trying to get.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is there anything else I need to clarify about that, because it may not be even within the
If there's
U.S.
any
It may.
questions from our viewers, just put them into the chat there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
All
here to
right.
clarify that.
Okay. So you're
Okay,
still
so this is,
working.
yeah, so I'm saying, like, the medical training experience is the medical training experience that everyone experiences, whether they are MD or DO,
Okay.
because we all work together in the same what I would describe as a very dysfunctional and abusive system. And training and everyone, and so I'm speaking, I know of the U.S. So that's what I'm speaking from, but I don't think I am only speaking about the U.S. here. It is. Yes, I do. Yep. Yep.
So what kind of drugs do you prescribe?
The same as any doctor, any medical doctor would. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. So my specialty is family medicine. So it's within the system. It's just sort of like, look very carefully if you go to your doctor, look at the credentials after their name. So yeah, so I mean, there are surgeons, there are OBs, I'm a family medicine physician, psychiatry, all the specialties, cardiology, everything. So we're small. There was like, for a long time, there was like 4 schools. And then there's been a concerted effort to expand the number of schools. And I think when I was in training, there was like maybe 20 to 30. And I don't even know how many there are now. There is, will not surprise me if there are 40, 50. It's growing, growing, growing. Our size and our influence, which I find exciting.
So go on
Mhm.
anyway. Are you working in a hospital, or do you work in private practice, or where do you work?
So private practice, and I'll get to the end, but my intention is to solo practice, and I'll explain how I landed there.
Okay. That's a question for later. Just so I leave it. Or
Yeah. Would love to come back to that, Arcturus.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah. So it's in the U.S. I think everyone probably has a medical horror story. Either they've experienced personally or someone very close to them. But inside the medical community is like, lay people don't even know the half of it. Like, this is a very, very, very serious thing that I'm really wanting more attention. And the healthcare community is not healthy. And if we're not healthy, we can't help any of the rest of you really truly be healthy. And that is what I learned. A very soul crushing experience, and one which I only finished my medical training, by the way, justifying it that would allow me to be able to be a part of trying to make things better.
Okay.
Yeah, I would not have done it. I would not have finished with the idea of practicing the way everyone who trained me was practicing,
Okay.
because I could see what it was doing to them, and it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, the first tenet of osteopathic medicine is that human beings are a unit of mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
But we never really talked about spiritual health. What is spiritual health? How do you assess it? How do you manage it? How do you treat it?
Mm-hmm.
How do you help people optimize their spiritual health? And so that was sort of nagging me in the back of my head. And I started to think, like, by that time, I'm a huge geek. And so by that time, I was aware of neo-paganism through fandom. So I knew, and I also was following John Michael Greer's blog. So I knew, like, neo-paganism is a thing, witches are a thing, magic is a thing, druids are a thing. And it was not something that I had really explored. So as a way of holding on, I sort of, in my free time, would start sort of exploring paganism, and not very much, obviously, with everything else going on. But once I was finished the training, then I got into sort of exploring that more in earnest. And when you're exploring, the first thing you find is Wicca, because that is the largest group. It was, I knew that was not for me, because organized religion, I was like, not for me. But I was like, well, maybe something I could develop, some sort of eclectic, something pagan, something. Because I've been doing that all along, basically. And so I had some of Star Hawk's books, and I was doing
Whose book?
exercise. Starhawk.
What book? Oh, Starhawk. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was 12 Swans was the one I was going through. I also have Spiral Dance. I had read through that. But 12 Swans takes the fairy tale and breaks it into pieces, and then it's like you kind of work spiritually like on with each segment and the different aspects that it touches on. And being a geek, and geeks are all about working with story. So I was like, oh, I really like this idea. So I will take this book and I will go through that. Seems doable. And I was doing one of the exercises, like a meditation, and Bridget appeared to me.
Okay.
And she's like, hey girl. It's like the first time we'd like explicitly talked. But I knew that she had kind of always been around. And so then I started scouring the internet, trying to find everything I could about Bridget. I learned, she's being, goddess of poetry and smithy, which I interpreted to be like, oh, artsy crafty type stuff, and a healer deity. So she seemed very much like my kind of girl. And also I am more Irish than anything else. So I'm like, cool, like Irish. Also, this is like very superficial, but she's always depicted with red hair. I love red hair. I have dyed my hair red because I wish I were born with red hair. Anyway, I
Oh,
was like, oh, I love Bridget. So scouring everything I could to find out everything I could about her. Also, like, I was finding in exploring paganism that there are so many books. Like the internet's good for 101 stuff, and there's so many books. But which one do you choose? My rule
yeah.
is to never buy a book without having read it. But again, I don't know. Like, do I go into the library? And like, it'd be a problem of like asking, like, can I loan this book? Like, how do you know librarians are cool? Usually they are. Pretty sure they are. But there's always like that chance. So it was, it's kind of becomes a bit of a challenge, especially if you're like in a rural area, limited access to resources. But anyway, scouring the internet, and I found a YouTube channel by a fellow devotee. I want to give him a shout out. Hawthorne and Bear YouTube channel.
Okay. Hawthorne and
And
Bear.
Hawthorne and Bear.
Will I put him in the chat here? Okay, Hawthorne.
Sure, yeah. They haven't updated it in like years. So I don't know, where they are. But if you're listening, darling, I thank you.
Hawthorne and
Because
Bear. Okay.
because she had mentioned offhand, Obod has this correspondence course, and she was thinking about taking it. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I went to the website and I looked at it, and I'm like, whoa, this is me. Because like I said, I am a huge geek, and geeks are all about working with story. And I'm also like artsy, crafty, all sorts of different interests. So that's the bardic strand. I'm a healer, so that's the ovate strand. And I've always had a very fierce sense of, I've always been a peacemaker and always had a very fierce sense of justice. So that's the druidic strand. And like I said, like sometimes I know things. And I had a knowing that this was the way to go. So I signed up for the course, and that was in 2018. And now here we are, 8 years later.
Wow.
Excuse me.
And do you have a seed group? Do you have rituals where you are, ceremonies where you are in Wyoming, or are you virtually doing them?
So functionally, I'm a solitary. We do have a seed group. Yeah. And it's a jackalope seed group. And
It's called a what?
Jackalope.
How do you spell
The
that?
jackalope. Let's see. I'm gonna get it.
JACK.
JACKALOPE. A jackalope is a cross between a jackrabbit and an antelope.
Do they exist? So it's the jackalope seed group.
Yes, and yeah, the email is jackalopeobod@gmail.com. For anyone who is interested. It's a cryptid that we very much loved here in Wyoming. If you look closely, you can see sculptures everywhere. You can see them mounted on the bar. If you're in a bar. Douglas is kind of, I think, considers itself to be the home. If you go to Douglas, I think it's Douglas, Wyoming. I think it's a town hall. You can actually get a hunting license to hunt the jackalope, which is of course valid only on June 31st of the year.
I love it. So, is there a backstory to the jackalope and how
why we chose it?
How the jackalope was conceived and born?
I think it was taxidermists having a lot of fun.
Okay.
I guess the Wikipedia page, I think it has puts a lot of theories out there of how it came, and it's kind of a little lost in the mist of time. There's some thinking that there was some kind of disease that can kind of cause little horn things on the jackrabbit, so maybe that was a thing. If I recall, there's something about some kind of in medieval manuscript or something, some picture of ooh, maybe it was this an antecedent, who knows.
Wow.
Yeah. It just amuses me so much.
Oh, jackalope.
So
Lovely.
when it came time for us to create our seed group, I was like, I just think we should just go with it.
Brilliant.
Yes, but Wyoming is a very large state and sparsely populated. So what we're doing is we're meeting online regularly to just hang out and connect with each other. So true.
That's brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, but functionally, we're solitaries, and we'll kind of see where things go. There's always that possibility of getting organized, getting enough people moved enough to do things online. Sky's the limit, or meeting in real life, depending on.
How do they contact you if they? So this is an
email. Yeah, if you're on the hearth, we have a circle. If you're not, then email that email address.
Give it to me again.
jackalopeobod@gmail.com.
jackalopeobod@gmail.com. Jackalope Obod, not at Obod. Jackalope. God, it's hard to say. jackalopeobod@gmail.com. That's correct?
Correct. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. And it is, so the group is open to all Wyomingite pagans and druids, as well as honorary Wyomingite pagans and druids.
How do you get to be an honorary Wyoming?
If you have previously lived here and still feel connected, if your family still lives here and you visit often,
okay.
If like me, you were an aspiring Wyomingite for many, many years, or in any other way, if you just feel very, very connected to Wyoming, you are totally welcome. We would love to have you.
Oh, lovely, lovely. So now that you joined in 2018, so that's 8 years, isn't it? So how has your Druidry impacted on your life?
I'd say that the training for me, the benefit has been bringing things into focus. I feel like prior to that, my spiritual energy was kind of all over the place. Okay. So it has been very helpful for me going through the course, whether it's saying exercises, say try this, try that. I'm like, oh, wow, cool. Or spend a little time thinking about this for a while. What do you think about that? Although that has been really immensely valuable to kind of bring things in. I think of it like a spiritual tuning sort of experience. So there's that. And then I'd also say being a part of OBOD and the community, I was not looking for the community at all. For my studies, as I said, actually I've been very wary of community that is drawn together by spirituality, because it seems like it can so often go wrong. And I'm not seeing that at Obod. I'm watching. The second I see it, I'll be gone like that. You better believe it. But the community has been so rewarding, and broadening that perspective, of a global perspective, in a way that I had not really realized. I had no idea how much people in other countries follow the U.S. news, for example. I figured there was some, but I had no idea. That awareness of northern and southern hemisphere, because all of us in the northern hemisphere, it is way, way, way too easy to get that northern hemisphere bias, to have that constant reminder of our southern hemisphere siblings saying, "Hey, like you're celebrating the summer equinox or solstice. Sorry, we're celebrating the winter solstice," and to have that constant awareness, that has also been very, very beneficial, I would say.
Yeah, I think what's been lovely about the teachings, and it's, even though, Druidry, it's associated with these lands, with what are they called, the Wise Islands, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and England, and of course Europe as well. But it's kind of where it survived, particularly in Ireland, and how global it is. I mean, that fascinates me. It's thanks to Philip, and I suppose the seeds first sown by Ross Nichols, but it was very small during Ross's time. But how it's grown since Philip took over, and then in the last 20, since I've taken over, it has gone huge. I think thanks to the pandemic, climate change, etc., and also the capability through technology that you and I are now talking,
Yeah.
where we would never have met had there not, maybe, I don't know if this capability would have moved at such a fast pace that it has if there hadn't been, a pandemic. But how global it is and how open it is. And that's one of the strengths, I think. Maybe people might criticize it for us, but you don't have to have that so-called Celtic ancestry. Now, that's another rabbit hole, but you don't have to have had ancestry from these lands in order to be a Druid. It always intrigues me how people from Asia or Africa or First Nations people go, "I like this," and I go, "Why?" And they go, "It speaks to me because it has similar threads and connections with our own cultures, and textures are different, but I suppose the principles are the same, and in many ways the values." And so how it opens up, and of course we're so diverse. We have such a, I describe it as a salad, not a puree, that we have this salad of membership backgrounds, spiritual backgrounds, on any spectrum that you can think of, we have it, that huge diversity, so that in a salad you have that ability to see, feel, taste the different ingredients and the textures. And then you could have a salad that has meat in it or not, or fish or cheese or not that. There's a freedom from dogma. And, what is a salad? It is a mixture of things. It's not, you always have to have lettuce and you must have a tomato. And like I grew up with, there was a slice of tomato, a slice of ham and a lettuce, and maybe a spring onion. That was it. So it's much, much more different. And that no dogma. And Arcturus Druid says, that's a huge reason why I love Obod as well. No dogma. So, and that is one of the things, Sean from Calgary, it's the only salad I don't reflexively turn down. He has a problem with rabbit food, I think. But
well, I was going to suggest, I listen, or sometimes when I'm at my computer on Sundays, I tune in to the my local UU church, by which I mean Cheyenne, like 2 hours away. But anyway, and one of their services they do is a flower communion.
okay.
And it's all the parishioner or congregants put a flower in to make a bouquet. And so, because when you brought up the salad metaphor, I was expecting Sean and Ricky to make their jokes. So, but I think the flower thing. So I don't know what. Maybe they're going to do something with that too. Who knows? But I started thinking like the flower analogy, because it's hard to think of two flowers that you can put together that wouldn't work. Or I can certainly imagine the potential to put two flavors I love into a salad, but not work out.
Anyway,
I always trick myself with the salad bar. But anyway,
it's lovely. I mean, I love that idea of the bouquet again because it's a collection of flowers, and then you can have, your cut flowers from the garden or the wild or whatever it is. There's a whole, loads of possibilities. Morgan has a question. What salad item would you be?
gosh,
Loves the analogy.
um, my favorite food, peanut butter, popped in mind, but I can't imagine a salad that will. See, this is what I'm saying.
You
What
can
do I
have a
love?
peanut butter sauce or a dressing.
Oh, okay, yeah, like the Thai dressing. Yeah, that's what I would do. Yep, that's my answer.
I mean, I'd hate to put myself to one because I can't be defined as one. Like I'm theist because I'm a priestess in the Fellowship of Isis. I'm also animistic. So
Mm-hmm.
they are, for many people, contradictory. I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
not for me. So you can have, sweet and sour together. There's those things that, uh, that you can or cannot. And it's like, diversity is this is what Sean says. He's in serious mode today, really. Diversity is what makes an ecosystem healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
Cara, I can't say the rest of your name. I love vegan salad. I'm trying to limit root vegetables, but that's difficult since onion and garlic are in everything.
Oh, that's
But
tough in our culture because our cooking culture, onion and garlic is like a
except the
basis.
thing is you make it yourself and then you bypass that if you're able
Yeah,
to.
exactly. What I learned, I had to learn this the hard way because, like I said, I have a salad bar problem because it's like you see all the stuff that looks good and then it like never tastes like good in the bowl. But and I see, like I resisted. I'm a tomboy, so I was like, girls learn to cook. I was like, why is this like whole like girls in the kitchen thing?
Yeah.
But then I got into the food movement. I'm like, okay, like this is just like it's like brushing your teeth. You cook from scratch if you're able to do that. Like you feel so much better. So I'm like, okay, I got to learn how to cook. Um, in salad, it's like uh, it's a nut, a fruit, and a cheese. It could do any combination of those, but like if you stick to those and you don't like you resist the urge to go like overboard, like that's what like the chefs do. And that's why if chefs make salads and they taste so good and you're at the salad bar and you can never manage it. So anyone it's like cooking advice with Liz and Eimear, maybe consider doing that the next time you make a salad.
Oh, but I suppose it's about making choices. And this is the one thing about, within the order in terms as you go through the grades is here's something you'd like to try. If it feels right, you can go for
Mhm.
it. And if it's not, doesn't feel right now, then leave it and come back to it.
Mhm.
And that's about making sense of, and this is where like the salad analogy comes in and diversity is that you have to make sense of it for yourself. So you may get certain lessons that some of them you mightn't like or they jar with you for whatever reason. And it's like, okay, play with that. Um, just play with it and see how you make sense of it. Or like stories that you don't like. You go,
Mhm.
okay, well, write your own, create your own. And,
Mhm.
I find when I was on the Bardic grade, so many of the stories were Welsh. I have nothing against Welsh stories, but I thought, oh my goodness, we have such a wealth of Irish stories. I need to go back and revisit them. The ones that I learned when I was in school. Before I
Mm.
started looking at stories from another culture, for example, this was my path. So I
Yeah.
did. And then I became a storyteller after I finished my Bardic grade because I struggled as a bard right through the Bardic
Mhm.
grade. It wasn't until I was an ovate that I started telling stories. Anyway,
Mhm.
nothing's in a straight line. You talk about this meandery
Oh yeah.
life, which makes it really, really interesting. And then so many of our stories are patriarchal, and that drives me crazy.
Mhm. Oh
And then I
yeah.
go, well, you know what? Now I'm going to find the woman's voice in the story. And that's what I do. So,
Yeah.
and OBOT allows you to do that. You go and take this motif, this
Oh yeah.
story, this ritual, whatever it is,
Mhm.
um, make it for yourself, just like what we do with the Wheel of the Year, you know that, okay, so the Wheel of the Year, we talk about our 8 festivals, and they start off this time because it all starts in the Northern Hemisphere. And then we have, you know, membership in the Southern Hemisphere who have to do things upside down, or that's, I hope that isn't offensive to anybody, but you know what I mean, that we've just come through the winter solstice, and in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the summer solstice. And how you make sense of the trees, for example. So we have our own trees, and they all come. So Om comes from this land, all right? Or and we have our trees. But how do you do that in Wyoming? So you have to make it of yourself, and I think that's one of the strengths. It might be a frustration. I found it easy. You know, I'm all the trees are out there. I have them in my garden. But for somebody like you who hasn't got all of those, but then there's that interesting journey of exploration and challenge and creativity to go and make sense of it yourself and find your own forest. And I think that, and that is so empowering. I always say, if you're looking for certainty, you're on the wrong bus. OBOD is not for you.
I actually consider certainty to be a vice, personally. I think I'm a very indecisive person, except for, you know, I get those moments of knowing, but generally speaking, I consider indecisiveness to be a virtue and certainty to be a vice. So there you go.
So Sean says, I see the curriculum as a toolkit, which tool for which job, which ones you use and work best. It's your individual context and contribution. The order provides options and approaches. For me, I loved, you know, having the Wheel of the Year rituals, or I would say, what did OBOD do for me? The teachings gave me a scaffold, a framework from which to develop and grow. And I think that is so lovely, because we don't, for people who aren't members of the order, we don't have a big book, and we don't have a list of sins and commandments and rules. You operate from your own internal moral compass, and you take responsibility for your own actions. So it's not so-and-so made you do it. You look at everything through an ethical lens. That is hugely empowering. So Alana says, in Southwest Colorado, juniper and sage are my go-to trees. Beautiful. Now, juniper is we have our own juniper here, but it's not mentioned it's not one of the Ohm trees. But that's the thing, is about finding the trees, the plants, the herbs, the sites that call to you. And I think that's really, that's what's so freeing.
That speaks to me to, you know, I was talking about what I was saying about the spiritual tuning, because I definitely found the experience of writing out what the Wheel of the Year looks like where I live, and, you know, to actually like pay attention, like, oh yeah, that's then, this is then, this, that, to go through in that experience and to bring in a conscious awareness, is what I'm trying to say. All of that sort of subconscious experience, observation, I think is what you're speaking to. So I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, you are okay. Just something. You're a poet, and you're a writer.
I dabble.
Do you have?
Yes.
So, would you like to share? You said you had a poem that you'd like to share.
Yes, I did. So this is a poem that I wrote after Trump was reelected last year. This is me trying to process that experience. So it's called Deep Down. Deep down, I know you are hurting, which is why I will forbear words which would pierce your heart, which could cut your flesh from your bones deep down. You chose fear over curiosity. You had a choice. Do you know that deep down? Will you ever bear witness, I wonder, to the cries in the whirlwind, to the suffering of others, and realize that your pain is still there deep down? And when the storm breaks, when the tide turns, when the surface crumbles, will there be anything left of you deep down? You've taken poison. No one else, no God nor politician can save you now. The only hope you have lies deep down. Just know that I see you. I will always see you. I know who you are deep down.
Wow. What was that process like?
Of
Writing
creative
that?
writing?
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, so after the election, I ended up doing an errand run down to Collins, and ideas, the always seems to come to me when I'm doing something else.
Mm.
So if I'm shopping, that's when the poem that comes to me. Um, when I'm writing is when I think of something to add to my shopping list. Um, and it's just the themes is kind of all um, rattles around in the back of my brain, um, and then the shape forms, um, and then um, most of the time it's sort of like when it come time to write, it's like taking dictation. It's already sort of there, and there's some revisionary process that has to happen once the words are on the page. But that's generally, if it's good writing, that's how it works. If it's a writing assignment, it can be like pulling teeth. Um,
Yeah.
so I'd say writing teachers don't do that, but or English teachers don't do that. But um, anyway, yes, if it's the writing, and I know it's like if that happens, and I was like, I know I've got something. Um, and so yeah, that's how it works for me.
It's interesting how you're in the not in the wrong place, but you're supermarketing, and something comes. It kills me when ideas come to me a place like that because
Mhm,
I can't write it. I used to
mhm,
convince myself I'd remember, but the best place I get it is if I'm just walking by a river, I'm in the woods. I always have
mhm,
my phone, and now I learn
mhm.
record it no matter
Oh
what. If
yeah.
it's a tune or something, just keep doing it
Mhm,
because I've. It's a bit like having a dream. I don't know if you've had dreams where
mhm.
you have the solution to something, you have
All the
the
time.
answer, and it's clear,
Mhm,
and then you wake up and you can't remember it. I know of people who've written it down
mhm.
and the next morning it's absolute rubbish. So there's nothing as bad as
Absolutely, write it down in the moment. Do not wait. You are
that's right.
not
It
gonna
comes like
remember
a
it.
mist. It comes like a mist, and then and as soon as it's gone, you can't grasp it. So that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you, and lots of
Good.
comments. Fantastic, beautiful, powerful poem, beautiful and poignant words. Beautiful poem, Liz Hills. Thank you. So I could feel it. Oh my goodness, I see you deep down. Woo! Um,
Yeah, I feel like I didn't cry while reading that because
oh, it's
I was crying
I,
when I wrote it.
brilliant,
Like,
great. I
I'm
mean,
like, "Why?"
it's very, very powerful. I mean, that thing, just deep down, and it's the way you say it. I think I see you deep down. Wow, a very powerful statement. Tell me
Mhm.
about before we finish your Earth
Mhm.
Hospice.
Yeah, Earth Hospice is great. So I don't know how I got turned onto it. I wanna say it might have been Dana O'Driscoll's blog, but who knows? Somehow I ended up subscribed to the Radical Joy for Hard Times
Oh, good,
newsletter.
Rebbe. Yeah.
Um, it's a great organization. And there's a couple different things they do surrounding this whole idea of Earth Hospice. Um, for they have been in the past, they were doing something called Earth Hospice Rights, which was it's like a 20-minute every other week um, meeting on Zoom. It's a secular thing, but it was like a ritual, secular ritual, um, to honor. Um, they were framing it as a way to cope with climate grief. It's not something I feel like I processed that like as a child. Um, I was doing it as an offering to the Earth Mother. I was like, something I can do. Like, I like to do a whole thing more for her. But in the meantime, I can attend these. That's why I was doing it. That is on hiatus now. Um, and there's, in addition, there is something called the Global Earth Exchange.
Mhm.
Um, that is, and I think you're participated as well. Um, and this is a yearly event that takes place around the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, winter
Yeah.
solstice in the southern hemisphere. And the idea is to go and seek out the wounded places that are near us and spend some time sitting with them and honoring them. And there's a process where you find the place and you spend some time, just really seeing it. And I am a fixer, so this has been a valuable experience for me to like set that aside. This is not about trying to fix anything. It's not about going to a place with a lot of litter and doing a cleanup.
Yeah.
You can do that later, but like in the moment, it's about just seeing like this is what it is. I see you, and to sit there and then to leave an offering of an act of beauty. And usually this might take the form of using found objects in that space and creating some kind of art form, whatever comes to you. The Radical Joy for Hard Times, the logo is a bird. So that has become something that a lot of people do, is create that. And that's what I have done. I've also done a sketch of the environment and left that in that space for someone else to find. I put the bird in this
Lovely.
like a relief sort of in the sketch. So I've done 2 years so far. And it's just been a very rewarding experience. Like the first time I did one that was to honor this whole land that I live on is all wounded. And so many things is, the poly crisis that you experience everywhere. Um, there's a forest nearby, national forest. And so I did it up there kind of right at the boundary. There's an abandoned ranger station. So I was like, this is sort of emblematic of what this land is like. So I decided to do it there. And this past year, I went to a nearby town where there used to be tons of coal mines, and that has all since closed up shop. Specifically in this area, the history of it is that right about when in the early settler times, they discovered these coal mines, and there's a ranching, but then there's also this boom bust cycle of the mining that has driven the socioeconomics and politics of this area through those boom bust cycles. And the last one was in the late 70s. At that time, why these mines were producing 46% of the state's coal, and we are a major. Or I said producing. I mean to say extracting. I like that word better. Extracting 46% of Wyoming's coal, and then
Wow.
a couple of years later, it dropped down to 4%. And has been a slow depopulation ever since in this 4 or 5 decades. And that is acutely felt by this entire community. Everyone who moved away, who could move away, moved away. People who are left, obviously the ranchers are still here, but they struggle. And that feeling of that, those are the good old days. That was when we had prosperity, the community was vibrant, and that is what fossil fuels means. Yeah.
I think that's so. It's a bit like where I came from in the middle of the bog in Ireland. The employment was either producing electricity from the peat or extracting the peat. And again, the town where I was brought up was this you're talking about a village certainly by American standards.
Maybe not here.
Like my mother's still living there, and she'll be 90 in a few months. And when you go through the main street, so many of the units are closed. There's nothing. We had, 4 drapery shops. I mean, I don't know if you know understand drapery shops, clothing shops that sold shoes and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, I see. Yes. Okay.
There were lots of businesses, and it's gone because now that no longer happens. So then people moved, and it was very vibrant when my parents got married first and went there. Not now, and so it's. But I just love that. And this is what I mean, I have Trebe's book, and
Mhm.
I found that it challenged me at the beginning when I read it. And then I
Mm.
found it, oh my goodness, there's something I can do,
Yeah.
which, is about being with places that have been wounded. And
Mhm.
that Earth Exchange, I was
Yeah.
involved year before last, December, the solstice of 24, going to a place called Ochinish, it means the island of the horse.
Mm.
It's in the mix of the Shannon estuary, and the area's been destroyed by aluminum processing. And
Oh.
there's a farmer there, his animals, his family, and the land all seriously ill. So a group of us went to do the ceremony to be part of this, and
Mhm.
it was lovely because we were able, we couldn't get to the wounded place, but because that's across the river, but we wouldn't be allowed on it anyway. We were
Yeah.
on the other side, and just to do a ritual and then to create art from things that we found. And
Yeah.
one woman had made willow salmons, and we sent them down the river.
Mhm.
Uh, and funny, we walked a little bit near the area, and there's a mini nature reserve. This is the irony. Big sign, leave nothing but your footsteps, blah, blah. This is a natural reserve
Mm.
sponsored by the company that was destroying the landscape across the river. All this greenwashing. But interesting, but there were people who came to that ritual from, some of them were local and others from different areas, but
Mhm.
were concerned. And part of the exercise, I don't know if you remember, was to ask people how they felt after the ritual. It was a really simple
Yeah.
ritual.
I've done it
And we
solo, so yeah.
Okay, so to ask, and then we had to record it, and I sent it off to Trebe. And
Mhm.
one woman said, "I can see the smokestacks from my
Mhm.
house, which is it could be
Yeah.
I don't know 40 miles away." And she
Mhm.
said, "I feel different now. We did nothing
Mm.
changed about the damage, but
Mhm.
people's relationship to the place changed."
Mhm.
And and I always find that profound, to be able to sit with damaged landscape, because often people say, I can't go there anymore because it's destroyed. It used to be a wonderful place. And now what you're doing is abandoning them. Like you wouldn't
Mhm.
somebody who's close to you who's had an injury and they're no longer the
Mhm.
beautiful person they once were,
Like
or
they're in hospice and you never
they're
go to
fading away because they're dying. You don't say, oh my God, you don't look as beautiful as you once were. I can't be with you. Or
Mm.
you're in pain and I can't bear to see this. I mean, some people do that, but what you're doing is abandoning them.
Yeah.
But it's to be able to sit and then look and find
Mhm.
beauty, like that little shoot
Mhm.
coming up through the piles of metal.
And,
Oh,
I was gonna say, and I was so inspired by Trebi, that I actually she offered a workshop to developing Earth Hospice rituals, that I took last year. Yeah. Um, which is a wonderful experience. And so I created one, and performed it. It's supposed to be a ritual, but it was just me and the ancestors of the land. Someday I would love to repeat it with some of my neighbors, but that will happen with time. Um,
you could share that.
and what
Would you be happy to share that?
um, I'm happy to share it. Do you want me to?
You could share it on the hearth.
I have in the climate
You have.
activist circle.
Oh, brilliant,
Basically,
brilliant.
yeah. So there's a accompanying eulogy and slideshow. Um, and the
Ooh,
slideshow is of pictures, some drawn from the state archives, some from other sources, and some I sort of drove around and took myself. Um, and eulogy, which is based on the Speaker for the Dead practice, that was described in Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card. Um, and
wow.
the idea is that typically in our society, you don't speak ill of the dead, right? So when you have a eulogy, you're only supposed to say the nice things. You're supposed to put this picture. You're not. If this was a person, we're all flawed, of course. But you don't mention the flaws. And certainly, if they did something really, really, if they hurt people, anything really, really egregious, you don't mention that in the eulogy.
Mhm.
You cannot speak. Do not speak ill of the dead. And the Speaker for the Dead is like, no, like you face head on and describe who this person was in their life, the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly, warts and all. And through that process is that catharsis of, again, I see you. This is who this person was. And the said person who recently joined the Ancestor Club is connected to everyone. And so that truth, speaking that truth aloud, is so important to seeing the truth within ourselves. So we're not lying about ourselves and how we are connected to whatever person, and the healing quality of that. And it's because since he published those books, that idea is spread amongst the fans. I think one of the forwards he mentions about how often fans will write to him and say that they have adopted that practice. That's what they want at their funerals, and so on. And so, this eulogy for the land I did in that style. So basically the ritual involves this slideshow, and it's not lost to me the using the resources in doing a ritual like this, but that's what I had. And listening to the eulogy and kind of getting into that grief state, and then expressing whatever needs to be expressed in whatever form, whether it's chanting, wailing, moving about, dancing, singing, drumming, playing instruments, and just getting it all out, raising up that energy, and then when exhausted, dropping down, lying down on the earth, and letting the earth absorb those energies, letting the wind blow over you and refresh you, and then in that moment, it's that space for inspiration, for um, insight, for what's the next best action to take. Because so much of this is where it's like, well, what do I do now? Moments of paralysis, I think that a lot of us experience. And what Trippy in this workshop was talking about, how these types of rituals can help process and help us move forward. So that is what I did. And as I said, I did post it in the climate activist circle. After I did, I'm happy to post it again or share it in whatever way people want. If they want to DM me, I don't know if I can give you the materials, and you are welcome to pass them on to whoever might benefit. However we want to do this. I think it's down.
That would be lovely. I think, just describing that ritual, how honest it is and how open it is, and truth, and not sanitized. And I think so much, we're not bad at death here in Ireland. I think we do better than most.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it stays to the traditional one, sometimes it's very sanitized. So Howard, my husband, died almost 11 years ago, and we had our ceremony out in the garden in our grove, and he's buried next door. And my kids dug the grave, and he died here with us, etc. And I laid him out and had put him in the coffin, all that kind of stuff. And we had talked about it, and it made it so much easier because of the truth that was spoken all the time, and nothing was sanitized, even with our young kids. We were sensitive, but nobody tried to hide the reality from anybody else. And I think that's what's so important is, so it's like, it's a realistic view of the person who's going or the land. And there's so much freedom in that, actually being able to speak the truth. I mean, honesty is scared. I mean, I'm not always honest, sometimes I'm tactful, which can help. And then sometimes I've been tactful, all of that kind of thing. But I think to be able to walk that truth with the land, and then to, like you say, speak, chant, drum, dance, whatever it is, grieve, have that cathartic process. And the funny thing is, people say, but sure, what good is it going to do? It's not going to change anything. That's not the point.
Well, you never know. Well, not the point. Also,
we change. And our relationship to the land changes, or our relationship to the hurt or the death or whatever it is, that changes. And that changes to be experienced in order to be understood, because you can't understand it intellectually. It's when you've had that and
Yes.
you go, now yes. And that's part of the magic of doing these kind of rituals. There's a magic in it that has to be experienced in order to know it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes. Makes sense to me. Yeah.
Well, it's been such a joy. We've gone over our
Yes.
time. It's been such a joy
Mhm.
talking to you, Liz.
Yes.
Uh, um, there's so many strands to your bow between your poetry and your DOing, and then
Oh,
this
okay.
was really
And but there was a question. It's about like what am I doing now with all of that? People wanted to know.
yes.
I'll stay in brief. Um, so I've been recovering from residency. It's been 10 years. My vision is solo practice and trying to show from reform from without. You can reform from within or reform from without. I can't do within. More power to anyone who's doing that. Um, to demonstrate what does a functional healthcare practice look like. Um, so my attempt in this rural area that I live at is to demonstrate what will work, create something that will work, and to help my community. I tried it once, didn't work. I'm reassessing, regrouping. We'll try again. I'm also, as I said, a permaculturist. So I'm also in the process of developing a permaculture consultancy and demonstration site. And I see all those, it's all one big project. But for those who are wondering, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't have anything to show for it. I had just have a lot of ideas. So watch this space, as we say. Um, and Stone Soup, Wyoming is the sort of name. I don't have any infrastructure set up or websites or anything to show it. But if you see Stone Soup, Wyoming pop up,
What do you
it's
call it?
Stone Soup, Wyoming. Stone Soup,
Stone
like story.
Stone soup.
Stone Soup, story of Stone Soup. Don't tell me you don't know the story.
I do know the story of Stone Soup.
Yeah,
I've
of
forgotten it,
course.
but yes, I do. Because I should know. Oh my, this is the shame of that. Yes, I have friends who Stone
Stone
Soup,
Soup. Yeah,
Wyoming.
yeah. It's you wouldn't believe it, but it's a popular thing uh, to call things. Um,
Ah, okay.
so um, someday that will be up and running. And obviously, if you're on the hearth, I will obviously keep everyone on the hearth updated. I just don't have any that set up right now.
I'm just intrigued because it strikes me that having a practice as a DO is full time, and then having a consultancy in your permaculture.
If
It's
you're
like,
talking about 15-minute visits on a jam-packed schedule, no, it wouldn't work. But I don't believe that that is healthy. So no,
no, I agree.
I'm not going to do it that way.
Yeah, I used to see 5 clients a day, and that was max, and that was an
I like
hour per person.
plus recovery time.
Yeah,
You can,
indeed. I had a half an hour break in between. So, and then you have your permaculture as well, which is a
yeah,
different process. You are, it's amazing that I suppose they don't seem congruent, but they are in terms of philosophy because they
mhm,
are both holistic approaches, one to humans and one to the land. And actually, if you can live within a permaculture world, then you have a holistic, healthy world as well. They both,
yeah.
they're
One
both
way I
very
describe
congruent.
another way. One of the ways I describe Druidry is that Druidry is spiritual permaculture. But I mean, um, my calling is, healing people, healing communities, healing the land, healing Wyoming, healing the world. Not like I'm ambitious or anything.
No. We'd say no better one to do it, Liz.
Mm,
Anyway, Robert Jones says, but I really appreciate the chance to
mhm.
see you, Liz. Greeting from a land blessed with warmth, sun, and gentle breeze. Now, where does winter go? What? Oh, that's Robert. So he's up in Canada. I don't know
Mm,
what it's like where you are, Robert, whether it's freezing ice, whatever, because
mm,
I went to Canada to the Obod gathering last June, and I had an amazing experience. And I was asking Jane, like, well, what's the weather like? And she said, well, it could be snowing up till June, and then it can start snowing in September. I always thought, oh, North America, long hot summers, but no, short hot summers. And
Depends on where you are.
BC.
Mhm.
Anyway, Liz, it's been such a joy talking to you.
Yes.
And I think you've given people lots of food for thought in terms of,
Good.
I just love, Earth Hospice, just the phrase.
Mhm.
I used to be a nurse, I trained as a nurse, and had I stayed in nursing, I would have gone into palliative care. That would have been, anyway,
Yeah.
it didn't. So I can appreciate that. And just having that connection with Trevor Johnson and the World Earth Exchange is just beautiful work too. And so it's been a joy. And I wish you luck. I'm going to let you say goodbye to everybody.
Yes, certainly. Thank you all for having me. It's been so wonderful. And we'll just look at all your lovely comments after, I think. And in the meantime, may you all be blessed with courage, curiosity, and imagination.
Great. So I'll send you to the green room. Don't go anywhere. I'll just say goodbye myself. Okay, so thank you all for joining me this evening. And it's great to be back after that break. And I will be back next week with another Fireside Chat. And until then, please be well, and wishing you. I keep talking about peace. I started, was it 3-4 years ago, and starting these with prayers for peace. And in addition to peace, reason, sense, common sense, recognizing when we all have enough. Anyway, so have a lovely evening, morning, if you're watching this as a recording. I look forward to seeing you again next week. So, Arturo says we can't talk about peace enough. I keep doing it. It's in my head all the time. We're not going to stop. Just don't give up. Anyway, slán go fóill until we meet again.